Talent gave Messi the gift, but discipline gave Ronaldo something talent never could. One was born with magic in his feet. The other built it, rep by rep, in the dark when no one was clapping. This isn't a story about who's better. It's a story about a single habit so small, so boring, so brutal, that it turned an ordinary boy into a machine the world couldn't stop. He didn't have the most talent. He didn't have the easiest path. He had one habit, and he refused to break it for 20 years straight. This isn't just about football. It's about obsession, sacrifice, and what it actually costs to be the best when you weren't handed the best. By the end of this, you won't just respect Cristiano Ronaldo. You'll understand the one thing he did that almost no human being on earth is willing to do, and the final price of that habit. It might be the saddest part of all. Stick till the end, because the last thing it took from him, he can never get back. Phase 1. 2 boys, 2 paths. There were 2 boys, both poor, both small, both dreaming of the same impossible life. One grew up in Rosario, Argentina, gifted with a brain wired for football, a body that bent the ball like it was breathing. People watched him and whispered the same word every time: genius. When he was small, men in suits flew him to Spain and paid for the medicine that would help his tiny body grow, because the world could already see what he was. The talent arrived first, and the world rushed to protect it. The other boy got none of that. He grew up on a tiny island called Madeira, in a house where rain came through the ceiling and dinner wasn't guaranteed. His father carried kits for a local club and drank to forget. His mother scrubbed floors so her children could eat. Nobody flew across the world for him. Nobody whispered genius. He had something else, a feeling that never left his chest, a feeling that he was behind, that he wasn't enough, that if he stopped moving even for a second, the world would forget he existed. One boy was a gift the game received. The other was a kid the game ignored. The first was loved for what he was. The second decided he would be loved for what he did. And that decision, made by a hungry boy with secondhand boots and a hole in his chest, would quietly become the most powerful habit in the history of the sport. Phase 2. The habit is born. At 12, he left everything, alone, a one-way flight to Lisbon, a tiny bag, and a goodbye he wasn't ready for. No parents, no money, no friends who understood him. At night, he cried into a pillow because he missed his mother's voice and the sound of his island. By day, the other kids laughed at his accent. They mocked the way he spoke, the way he wanted it too much, the way a poor island boy thought he belonged among them. He was the smallest, the skinniest, the one they didn't pick, and just when he started to believe the work might be paying off, that he might finally be catching up, his own body turned on him, a racing heart, a condition the doctors said could stop him cold mid-sprint with no warning. He lay in a hospital bed at 15, staring at a ceiling, listening to grown men explain that the dream might already be over before it began. That was the bottom, the floor beneath the floor. Most kids would have taken it as a sign to quit. He took it as a reason to never waste a single day again, because somewhere in those lonely, terrified years, he found the one habit that would define the rest of his life. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't genius. It was this: when everyone else stopped, he did one more sprint, one more shot, one more hour after the session ended and the lights of the academy clicked off one by one. While the others went home to rest, he stayed on the pitch in the dark, alone, exhausted, doing one more. He couldn't out-talent the gifted ones, so he chose to outwork every single one of them on every single day for the rest of his life. One more, he'd tell himself when his legs were already gone. Just one more. Phase 3, the machine. By 16, he was playing with men. By 18, a man named Sir Alex Ferguson signed him to Manchester United, and the kid from the leaking house walked into Old Trafford carrying that one habit like a weapon. While teammates relaxed, he stayed behind. While the stadium emptied, he practiced free kicks under the floodlights, alone, the last one on the grass, hitting the same ball 100 times, then one more. But the habit didn't stop when he left the pitch. That's the part nobody copies. He studied his own body like a scientist studies an enemy. He changed how he ate, weighing his food, cutting the sugar, the alcohol, the easy comforts every other young man his age took for granted. He changed how he slept, breaking the night into 5 short sleeps so his muscles could recover the way he wanted them to. He spent fortunes on ice baths, recovery, machines that measured every fiber, not to look good, but to buy himself one more year, one more season, one more rep. He built muscle on muscle, turning a skinny island boy into something carved from stone. People saw the goals and called it talent. They didn't see the 4 in the morning runs, the jumps measured to the centimeter, the diet he never broke, even on holidays, even at parties, even when every voice around him said, just relax for one night. He did the boring thing, the same drill, the same food, the same brutal extra hour 10,000 times when no one was filming, when no one would ever know. That's the secret almost nobody can copy. Not the skill, the repetition. Doing the unglamorous thing on the day you're tired, the day you're sad, the day you've already won, and the world says you've done enough. Messi was a gift the world received. Ronaldo was a debt the world watched him pay every day in full for 20 years. In phase 4, the cost of one more, but here's what the highlight reels never tell you. A habit that's strong doesn't stay on the pitch. It follows you home. It sits at your dinner table. It stands in the doorway of your child's room while you leave again for one more session. He became a global icon, a billionaire, a name spoken in every language on earth, and still, one more. He won the Champions League, and the next morning he was back on the grass doing one more. He won the Ballon d'Or, lifted it, smiled for the cameras, and felt the same emptiness he felt as a boy who wasn't enough, because the habit that built him could never once tell him he'd arrived. That's the trap nobody warns you about. The thing that made him unstoppable also made him unable to stop. He gained the world's respect and lost ordinary days. He gained millions of fans and missed the people who actually knew his name before it was famous. He gained mansions and lived in hotel rooms. He gained stadiums full of people screaming for him and ate dinner alone more nights than he'll ever admit. Applause from strangers instead of stillness with the people he loved. And then came the day no amount of discipline could prepare him for. He lost his father, the man who carried the kits, the first man who ever believed the boy might be something. And even then, drowning in a grief that no trophy could touch, the habit didn't release him. He showed up, he trained, he played, he did one more, because stopping was the only thing he had never, ever learned how to do. The discipline gave him everything the world can measure, and quietly took everything it can't. Phase 5, the final price. Today he has the records, the jets, the mansions, the numbers that will stand for 50 years. He outscored, outlasted, and outworked an entire generation, including the genius from Rosario the world swore could never be matched. And he did it with one habit, one more. But years later, on an ordinary evening, no cameras, no crowd, no trophy on the line, his young son looked up at him after a session and asked him to stop, to rest, to just stay. And for the first time in his life, Cristiano Ronaldo felt the full weight of the thing that made him great, because he didn't know how to. He had said one more to the world 10,000 times. He had never once learned how to say enough to himself. The habit had given him everything, but it had also taken every quiet morning, every slow afternoon, every ordinary moment he could have spent simply being a father, a son, a man at peace. He looked at his boy and understood the cruelest truth of all. The discipline that saved him as a starving child had become the cage he built around himself as a king. He spent his whole life chasing one more, and one day the only thing he'd truly want is the one thing the habit would never let him have: time, stillness, enough. So the next time you watch his goals and call it talent, remember, it was never talent. It was a poor, frightened boy who decided, alone in the dark, to do one more when no one was watching and never stop paying for it. He didn't become better than Messi because he was gifted more. He became better because he was willing to pay more every single day for the rest of his life. That is the one habit. That is the whole secret. And that is the price almost no one on earth is willing to pay. If this story moved you, comment one more below to remind yourself what discipline really costs. Smash that like button and subscribe to join the Discipline Squad, because somewhere right now the boy from the dark is still doing one more. And now you finally know why.